Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a September 25th edition of the MSP Initiative MSP Talk. We are right in the thick of things. This is what the time of the year in our industry we like to call the gauntlet. This is where, for some reason, 90 days worth of things happen in about 30 days because everybody doesn't, I don't know, talk to each other and set a calendar that makes sense. I digress. Anyway, here we are at in September, well, almost October, really, and things are underway. Let's just get into some housekeeping. One, MSPinitiative.com. That's where you're going to find everything that we, put out there for you guys to see what we're up to. That includes the podcast and video version of this session and the 500 plus other sessions we've done. You'll also see the Channel Sports Tour. We're headed, we went to Kansas City with a bunch of MSPs. This weekend, we're headed into Tampa Bay with a bunch of MSPs for Eagles at Buccaneers. I heard it's going to be a hot one, but we're excited for it. So, looking forward to meeting everybody out there. Look for us on TV. You never know. Got those crowd shots. So, Channel Sports Tour. Check out the rest of our stops. We're headed to Green Bay, Dallas, and Los Angeles are still on the calendar outside of Tampa this weekend. So, they're there if you're an NFL fan. We're coming to your backyard. Then we have two block parties coming up here literally in the next month. One is here in about 2 weeks. We're headed into Miami for DattoCon Miami. Pretty excited for that one. We'll be taking over the Live nightclub at Fontainebleau. It's on property, same place as the actual conference is happening, just literally in the lobby. Can't miss it. Is Live nightclub. It apparently is one of the go-to places on South Beach. Hard to get into on a regular night. So we took over this place. We're excited. It was great last time. We maxed out fire capacity last year. I see no reasons why we would not max it out this year. I think it's probably likely. So if you're an MSP and you're not already pre-registered, yeah, suggest you go and register now ahead of time so you're not stuck waiting in line. We did had to create like a little bit of a queue last year where people had to wait until people came out. So to prevent that, you want to get there early and you want to be registered. So that's my advice to you. Putting it there live and in Technicolor. There it is. And then we're also headed down to Sydney for Kaseya Global Connect Sydney. So it used to be called DattoCon Sydney, changed the name. So we're headed there at the end of October. So we'll be there as well, doing similar event, community block party down there alongside of that conference as well. So we already have what's turning to be a pretty burgeoning calendar for 2026. Excited to announce a bunch of things coming up for next year. But with all this stuff happening in the next little while, we'll let you know. After we get through this gauntlet time in the MSP sandbox. So there's all my announcements. MSPinitiative.com. Without further ado, I think this is the first time he specifically, individually, has been on the podcast. I know we've had others from the company. But welcome, Mark from Thread. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, and that sounds like an exciting schedule on your side, man.
Yeah, it's
Blue Fountain is
um,
really awesome.
a lot of airline miles. It's I feel like I'm gonna be gone, like not home, collecting mail from the mailbox for a little bit. But personally, but hey, got to do what you got to do, right?
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, all the like once like I was just talking to somebody about the Facebook $800 Meta glasses, the AirPod 3 with the live transcription, which apparently you don't even need the threes, you can do the twos as long as you have a 15 iPhone 15, 16, 17. Um,
Pretty awesome.
and somebody was like, oh, I may wait till they release the next generation of iPhone, which is kind of like I guess what Samsung's doing, where it's like the foldable. And I'm like, well, all the stuff in Star Trek has come true, it feels like, except for the transporter part. So I'm waiting for that one where, like, you could just, like, show up
Teleportation.
somewhere else. Yeah, exactly. They just beam you up and then you, like, show up where you need to be. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not sure the
So I'm
airline
really happy to be
industry.
here.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna say
right.
I'm not sure the airline industry would like that, but yeah, it's all good. Well, it looks like you're out and about. Where are you at today, Mark?
Well, today is a big day for myself and for Thread. We are hosting our very first conference, the AI Service Unleashed conference, here in the Space Center in Houston. So behind me, you can see some rockets, and you could see over here, space shuttle. So yeah, excited to be here with some awesome MSPs and talking about AI.
That's awesome. Congrats, first event. How many people are you expecting at this event?
Uh, it's small, but valuable. So we have about 60 people coming in.
Okay, that's great. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and I'm
Well,
dressed as an astronaut.
hey man, we've got to roll with the theme. Yeah, I've been to personally, right? When I was in Florida and didn't have anything else to do, I've been to Kennedy Space Center. It's a cool spot. It's like a little theme park going on almost, but
Yeah,
very cool spot for an event. It's like, hey, all the people went right on the highway. We decided to go the other direction.
that's all right.
Awesome. Well, congrats. I'm looking forward to hearing highlights from it.
Of
Um,
course.
so what is there to talk about? Plenty to talk about. I mean, obviously the technology land in general is always something going on. MSP land is always something going on. Um, so let's, I swear when we get time, I'm gonna take. I think this is, we've done one of these almost once a week for the whole week. So I forget how many weeks into the year is, but I've asked this question almost every time we've talked about the concept of AI. Now, if I take everyone's feedback, I'm going to have quite the feedback loop of what everybody's opinion is. And like obviously the story continues to unfold, right? So I'm going to ask the same thing, if nothing other than to be consistent, because I'm going to stitch all these together at some point. But yes, you do a lot of AI things in your product, so you should have your own opinion, I'm sure. But before we get into that, how about a little bit of background on yourself, Mark? So for people who haven't met you before or have run into you at an event, like they understand your background, and then we'll go into the topics of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the founder of Thread, currently the chief of magic. So I oversee product design and engineering and helping to create, service magic for our partners. My background is I was born and raised by wolves, aka born and raised in the MSP industry. Started on the help desk at 17 years old. Was an intern on the service desk, not even tier zero, tier -1. But spent 5 years going up that ladder. So did tier one, tier two, tier three. Um, Ultimately was a junior server administrator, but really enjoyed, worked on the service desk, worked on the knock, then tried to innovate in that MSP, was realized that it's hard to build software in an MSP because it's just such a different business than the service business. So I left to make a startup that was in a completely different space. It was online food ordering when Postmates and DoorDash and Caviar, all of those started. Um, and then ultimately got acqui-hired, got to work on a bigger product with delivery.com. So really brushed up my product management skills. And then I came back in a management role to that same MSP um, as director of service delivery and brought in some of those software concepts that I had, agile, thinking through how we could use automation to transform that business further. So we rebranded the site maintenance team to the automation engineers. We launched the SOC. We launched the dev practice. But my goal was I wanted to combine my two passions. I wanted to build a product for MSPs, and that's when Chat Genie, which is now known as Thread, was born about 5 years ago.
Awesome. Well, 5 years is a long time in the software space or MSP land for that matter. So that's most people don't get to this point, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely been a ride.
100%. I believe you guys announced an investment round. Is that correct?
That's right, and our new CEO. So we just
Awesome.
recently announced an $8 million round, led by some really great folks, both inside the industry and outside. So really excited. Headline, which is a strong investor in infrastructure tools overall and infrastructure and AI. West Coast based, and then doubled down from David Bellini and Adam Slutskin, which have been awesome partners, and Integrated Capital, which you guys may know was also an investor in LionGuard in the space.
Awesome. Yeah, well, sounds like no, the money people have definitely, are not shy anymore to the sandbox that we all play in. So they have discovered it, the sub industry underneath the larger technology industry for sure.
The
Uh,
private equity groups for sure have discovered the MSPs.
yeah,
It's
for
insane to
sure.
see that level of consolidation that's happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk about that topic too. Let's go back to AI for a second. So now I'm going to mention the same things that I mentioned. Just got to keep consistency. Got to get my mega clip ready for the end of the year here. But all right, I'm going to go to fast food because everybody's been there at some point. I don't care what age, right? So
Yep.
McDonald's, Wendy's, Taco Bell, all tried it. Tried to replace the drive-through operator. All of them ripped it out. All within the last 2 years. Probably sub 24 months if I think about it properly. So this is not old. This is really recent. Taco Bell's the most recent one. They had somebody after 2 million orders. That's a lot of orders. So I wonder why they'd scrap the project if it was, I would say, fairly successful. They were running up against issues where somebody, rolled up to the drive-through and the AI put 18,000 orders on their order. Now,
A
I
lot of
think I,
tacos.
I think you and I can agree that the MSP space is way more dynamic in the type of request you're going to get from your client than what you would order off of a drive-through menu. I would say the drive-through
Absolutely.
menu is really finite, right? Like there's only so many things you can do.
Limited menu items for sure.
Yeah, so if it didn't work in that use case, and it wasn't consistent enough to do that. Why is it that everybody seems to, well, the industry marketing says go here, go here, go here. I argue the actual person in the chair at the MSP saying, do we go down this road or not, has still been very gun shy. Tell me why these two sides aren't in alignment.
Yeah, and it's a great point. It's a great point, and I think we're still in early days of the AI journey. LLMs, generative AI, those the transformer models that ultimately became the large language models that we know are in early days, and there's a lot to improve. The context windows, the hallucinations, the tool usage, there's a lot there. And so I think, if we double click into the food space specifically, they are looking to replace labor.
Yeah,
And I
for
think
sure.
that's very early, right? Yes, it might be a finite number of menu items, and you hit an area that I spent 5 years working in. I've worked a lot with menus. Menus do get complicated. There are a lot of customizations as well. So even though a 25 menu item menu can actually have close to 15,000 combinations actually.
Sure.
Um, but the reality is that they were trying to replace labor. Where I think we are right now is we are augmenting labor. I think what we're looking to do is, instead of thinking about how the drive through, replacing the drive through person, you should be thinking about, well, how can we have one drive through person on the line be able to handle orders 20% more efficiently, 30% more efficiently. And if you look at what's happening in a different industry, in self-driving cars, it's when I found this out, I was mind blown in that there's, like Waymo, for example. You have the cars are driving by themselves, but you actually have a remote driver that has a screen with nine windows where they're seeing nine cars driving, and if one of those cars gets stuck, they come in and they use actually like I think it's a PlayStation or an Xbox controller. They take over the car and they actually navigate the car using that controller, right? And what you're getting is, where you had one driver per one car, you're getting one driver per nine cars. And so you're getting massive leverage there versus where I think the food space was going was, we don't need people. We'll just have the AI do everything. It's gonna go make an API call. It'll go put in the food order, and no one's taking a look at it. So you end up with 18,000 tacos being created, and the guy's like, "I'm not paying $36,000 right now. Like, what, are you out of your mind?" And I think that's the key. the key is we're early in the LLM journey. I think that if you have a finite number of things that you want to focus on, you can get that to a high level of accuracy. And it's more about augmented labor, where one dispatcher, I don't believe that this, for example, we talk a lot and think about a lot about dispatchers. It's not that dispatchers are going to disappear. I want dispatchers to have a team of agents that are working and they're supervising. I want every person to become a supervisor in their
Hmm.
job. And I think
Okay.
that's the big difference.
All right. That's a good starting point. All right, let me go backwards or sideways for a second. So we always hear the I hate to do this, but because it's been said so many times, I'm going to start here because I think everybody will resonate to this in MSP land. It's like, well, how many endpoints do you manage? And what is your endpoint to tech ratio? I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times.
Of
So
course, the
like
best proxy for service gross margin.
100%. So how do we then take this conversation about augmenting? And you're like, well, George, I'm not sure that's the right calculation. Is it? So do I flip over to, well, what's your average number of customer tickets per tech per day? Is that the right metric that we should be working from? Or or is it, hey, like tickets could be a little bit, like cloudy because a ticket could be an email alert that's not a human being interaction. So do I then try and refilter it for a third time? How about how many real-time customer interactions by a human being were then fielded per engineer or technician per day? Like, what is the correct benchmarking to then understand, well, how does the augment percentage change it?
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. I think that the contact to technician ratio, the endpoint to technician ratio, is still a great proxy for service gross margin because we charge by the end user per month, and we pay. Our cost structure is the staffing underneath to support that, right? And so I think that is still a good proxy. And typically you do need to back into that in the sense of, well, what's the average number of tickets? End user generated tickets is how we think about it versus alert based. And the model for the in the market for a long time has been, okay, we're seeing about one ticket per contact per 2 months, right? That's typically been how people have budgeted for that. And then when you think about the productivity side, it is how many requests can a technician take per day, right? So if you're talking about a 30-minute phone call, average 10-minute, buffer time to clean up tickets and do ticket management, you're probably talking about somewhere 8 to 12 calls per day, right? And so I think what you're going to see is, okay, well, now that technician can handle 14 to 18 calls because it's auto prioritizing, it's auto categorizing, it's writing the time entry, it's automatically escalating. It's giving you recommendations. It's learning memory. So I think we will see a massive improvement in the endpoint to technician ratio, right? Some of the best in class right now are about 300, 350 even, and there are concepts and theories that we'll probably start seeing numbers like 500 and 600 start to appear over the next 12 months. Um,
Hmm,
which I think is exciting. And one thing I will say, while every good metric should have a counter metric, because if you over optimize for anything, that means you're under optimizing for something else.
sure.
So while we focus on what is the throughput of a technician, we should also think about what is the customer experience like. We need to make sure that that's counterbalanced because, man, I could do 25 tickets per day. I could just say, hey, figure this out on your own, or like, here's here's a script, you run it, and I can close it, right? And then what you're going to see is that customers are going to be frustrated with that, and that will be you'll see churn happen, and your customers will leave. So I think it's important that while we navigate this higher productivity levels as we move forward, we need that counter metric to ensure that customers are ultimately getting an incredible service experience.
Yeah, no, I mean that is exactly where I usually go next after the first, set of questions, which is, hey, for good or for bad, people don't like arguing with the machine. All right, like, and I use the example that, after fast food, it's how many times has everybody had to call their internet provider, their cell phone company, their credit card company, all the same problem, right? Like, hey, I tried to go fix it. I couldn't get to a place where I could. I then had to reach out to a human being. The chat experience was not good. I then called them, third go, and now I'm like, agent, agent, agent. I don't want to deal with this anymore. Get me to a human being. To the point where before all of the, I call the current period where we are, everybody, at least I've gathered, started around mid to late 2022, right? Where we are today in 25,
Like
right? August.
ChatGPT launched
Yeah,
in
okay.
November of
So
22.
pre 2022, and I could go and pull up the article if you want, but T-Mobile started doing analysis of, well, if you're calling as a customer subscriber our call center too much, we're going to fire you as a customer, regardless of whether you're in a contract or not. Right?
That's crazy.
They took a similar metric that you just mentioned of, well, if we figure every subscriber is going to call us once every whatever month, 6 months, year, right? Could be around upgrade time, could be whatever. And if these people are calling once a day, then they're not a profitable customer for us. Like they did some sort of metric calculation like that, not too far off from what we're talking about, and just said, if you're not a profitable customer, you shouldn't be our customer, and just basically cut them.
Yeah, yeah. And I have a funny story that maybe we'll get to, but on the on that side, I think there's a big difference, and we talk about this all the time. That in other industries, service and support is a cost of doing business, right? T-Mobile is
Oh.
really selling you connectivity and maybe an internet line, a mobile line, but the support is coming at a cost of that. The difference with the MSP industry and the service desk that we have is that our service is our product. That
Hmm.
is the thing. It's not selling sneakers and offering you a live chat if the size doesn't fit, right? And so I think
So true.
it's a complete, it's a different game. Like we can't create. And the funny story that I had is I had to call Chipotle after placing an order online. Um, to make a change to the order, and I was trying to get to the store. If anyone can beat the Chipotle bot, I sw it's inc it just refuses. You know how I got through? I said, "I have to paint the walls in this Chipotle location. I need to talk to the manager to paint the walls."
Oh my
And then
God.
it let me through.
Wow. That's
So
crazy.
and it's a yeah, and again, these companies, they sell a different product, and for them, service is a cost. Um, and for us, because it is our product, we can't mess around. We can't create these loops on the IVR systems that trap you, right? In hopes that 30% will drop off because the cost of trying to get through a human is higher than the problem that they're trying to fix. Um, and so one thing that one of our partners says that has really been weaved into our DNA now, our goal is to use AI to make service more human.
Hmm.
It's not to replace humans.
So wait a minute. We started with totally human to totally outsourced human to back to the computer, took the human out of it, and now we're trying to make the computer more human.
I think that's what we all want. We want things to feel human. We That's who we are. We build in our image. We make in our image. We want everything to feel more human, everything to feel natural and easy to use. And computer systems haven't been able to do that. But with some advent, it starts to imitate intelligence. It starts to imitate humans, and I think that can help to bridge the gap. But I don't think that AI should cut the humans out, especially in our industry.
Reminds me of Data from Star Trek.
Yeah,
It's always trying to
Al
figure out
Al
how to be more
2000
human. Yeah.
from Space Odyssey.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, so needless to say, there has been a explosion of little AI companies that have popped up in the last even this year, like new this year, right?
Crazy.
2025. Um, they are showing up everywhere, and a lot of them are, doing a lot of different things, and it seems like some of them could be pretty just low hanging fruit shortcut things. Some of them could be over promising, under delivering, possibly, right? To your point, like for the longest time, and I came into the MSP sandbox, like 2000 2001, right? So I was in that kind of early, yeah, in that 2000s period before like MSP was an acronym and a term, right? And then 2010s, like kind of reinvented. Then 2019, 2020, kind of reinvented again. Now we're in 2022, 2025, kind of reinvented again. But at the core of it, it's still the same idea, right? Here's the problem. That whole beginning time, probably from 2000, 2001, all the way to 2019, that period one and two that I just mentioned. I would say one of the top things I heard anytime I went into a user group, a peer group, a breakout session, whatever it was, bar at the conference, was people, right? Having a hard time finding the right people, right? And like different people tried to solve it in different ways. I've heard of MSPs hiring a whole staff in Philippines, outsourcing it to, different parts of the world. Doing the remote thing before COVID even happened, right? Where they were hiring from different places, even here in the US, right? That became super popular in the 2010s, right? Going into the pandemic times. And so all of these things can still work, right? Like none of them are the secret sauce. Some combination of them probably is the answer. But I feel like these new AI companies, at least the messaging I'm seeing a lot personally is you don't need these people, right? Like you could run a multi-million dollar MSP with all these AI tools and like one person. And like I'm concerned that we're setting people up to fail with that message.
Yeah, it's a good point, right? Back to like, it's not about replacing humans, it's about augmenting it. However, I do think that a lot of the hiring patterns are going to change. We do have one MSP that I think is one person with 2 million top line revenue, which is kind of wild. They do use a lot of outsourced services, of course, and AI, and really good processes. But I think the future looks like, where when we started to outsource and push things into the Philippines, India, we're looking to basically use the cost of living of somewhere else to get financial leverage.
Hmm.
um, Usually comes at the cost of quality, right? Because those people don't have, they're not in tune as to the cultural thing. Oh, hey, George, how was the Super Bowl? What are your plans for Labor Day weekend? So you just don't get that level of service there.
Hmm.
So what I think will happen is that we will have less employees that are higher, getting paid more money. So you're
Hmm.
going to be optimizing for quality, higher pay, and with inflation, there's no choice at this point. Um, but you will optimize on getting less, more talented people that have that, that can protect that level of quality that you're looking for,
Hmm.
and they're being augmented to get that same level of productivity that perhaps three people in the Philippines would have gotten, but at a lower quality. So
Okay,
I
but how
think
do you handle that more qualified, more expensive person going on vacation for 2 weeks?
right. So I don't believe, to your point, I think it'll be very hard to scale a business, with one employee. Like I'm not sure. I think it's a fun metric to see how far you can get, right? Like the guy who built a software company, one person sold it for like 70 million. He just
Hmm.
vibe coded the whole thing, and maybe there it's easier because it's not a service business. So ultimately, you will need a good level of staff, right? If you're selling, other businesses are relying on you. You're selling to hospitals, dental offices, account, like they need that level of service. There's service level agreements. They're expecting that the technology is working for them. Um, so I do believe you will still need to have, the right level of coverage. You need to have resiliency and redundancy in that staffing levels, but you will have higher quality people that have extreme leverage and productivity.
Okay. Um, Back to customer experience, right? Like I've used this. This is a Georgism. I didn't make it, but this is the way I put it out there, right? Like if you have a really good product, and you have really mediocre or even bad customer, facing support, customer service, whatever, you can get by with that. That recipe works, right? Like I know a lot of people who bought a Tesla and they never interact with Tesla, even when they have to go schedule their Tesla to get maintenance. It's probably not the best interaction from a lot of the people I know have a Tesla, but because the car just works all the time and they don't need it often, it's tolerable, right? Or you could have a mediocre or maybe not the best product, but really good support, really good customer service. And that's tolerable, right? Like that's okay for a lot of people because when they need the help, it's there, they have access, it's quick, they feel good about it, they move on, right? But the product probably is not the best, right? It's when your product is mediocre or not great and your service goes down to here, that's when it breaks, right? You can't have both sides go below, the acceptable line. Then at that point, it's intolerable. Do you follow what I'm saying so far?
Yeah, yeah. There's always a trade-off, right? And I think if you look at, startups typically have poorer products because they're newer, they're just getting started, so it's not, you know, doesn't have that level of completeness. But because it's founder-led, because it's early days, you get an incredible level of service, you have access to the management team, and so it works. And then, as you scale to the level of production on a Tesla 3 versus where they started, yeah, you get a much better product, so you can pull back. Um, and of course, you end up with other companies like Apple or Amex, where they have incredible products and incredible service. And
Right.
then you
But
talk
like,
about incredible businesses.
other names in the industry, right? Like I've heard every MSP trying to get support from Microsoft
Oh
directly
my
or
God.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
your answer says it all. How about Google, Facebook, Apple, Nvidia, Wasabi? I could keep going on and on and on. Like, not trying to knock anyone, especially if I've had you on the podcast, but like, bottom line is, they're mass volume companies that aren't easy to get a hold of.
Yeah. And, you know, there's a lot of dynamics at play because, the way that things progress is you typically try to first create customer value. You're trying to provide something to your customers. Then you try to capture some of that value as, you know, as company value, right? So like, okay, now I need to make some money. So you start to pull some of that out. And then you do get into situations, when private equity gets involved, you become public, then you have a whole customer base that you have to make returns on. And so you start cutting off things. I don't necessarily agree with that approach. I don't think it is the right approach, especially because software is getting so easy to build with vibe coding that you have to differentiate not only on the product completeness, but also the service. Like I think the service part is going to be so super important because there's now going to be hundreds, hundreds of players in every category because they're all vibe coding their way there.
Um, so going backwards, right? I want to talk about the pressure, and I'm talking generally. It doesn't have to be specifically your situation of, hey, we took on dollars. Those dollars usually come with strings, right? And we've seen
Yep.
this, I think, at the highest level of our sub industry, right? Like the three, four, five big companies at the top, right?
Yeah, of course.
And like, I don't have to go very far to a Discord, Facebook, Slack, Reddit, pick your forum, I don't care channel of MSPs. They have the same thing seem to be reoccurring. My billing is screwed up. I can't get a hold of anyone in support. Um, every time I go to look into something, I have to sign a multi-year contract. I don't even know if the product works yet. And they keep promising me features that were supposed to be out years and years and years ago that I haven't seen yet. But the only common denominator I can give you is all of these companies are investor led now. And like the people that started those companies may still be involved, but they're not at the helm. So saying unless you want to dispute any of those items, I'm talking generally, but I think those are pretty well founded, in my opinion, the way I see it. How
Especially
do
private
you,
equity backed companies.
okay, you said it. How do you prevent that type of problem happening to a company a little bit further downstream?
Yeah, like a thread. So I think you're absolutely right. It is a lot about founder led um, organizations where that original folks that created it that had that customer value thesis is there and there's a voice to represent that. And so we're very mindful of that in terms of who we take on, right? When we bring in, you know, David and Adam, for us, they care about the MSP industry. They really do. And when they were at their companies, and even now, right? They weave that into the DNA. And so when we try to take on the capital, we we make sure that this is really important for us, and we are committed to the MSP industry. So we make sure that on our level in our organization, we have the right representation on the board to make sure that investing into the customer service experience is high priority, and it does get that time in of day. And I think even as MSPs are being acquired by private equity groups, the same stuff is happening. The founders are leaving. They're trying to consolidate things. They're trying to pull out cash because the private equity firms, they have to return money to their investors.
Hmm.
What I would say is the important part is that it's really becomes short-term value versus long-term value. What they're optimizing for is short-term value, right? Hey, we're gonna not fix your billing issue. We're not gonna invest into your product request features because we get to keep that money. We're pulling the money out. But long term, you're churning customers. They're not going to keep being with you. And ultimately, you're not creating long-term value. And I think true companies that want to create long-term value need to ensure that the priority is on the customer experience.
Okay. I'm hearing you. I agree with you. I just don't think I see that consistently. I mean, to be honest, I
Yeah.
think it is like this, and the only reason it roller coasters like that is when some bean counter in some back room says, "Man, the numbers don't look good because we signed customers, but they're not staying with us long enough." And then like there's a financial
So
churn
let's lock
number.
everyone into a 3-year contract instead of actually fixing the problem. Like, great idea, dude. Great idea. They're gonna leave in. They're all gonna leave in 3 years, and then
Correct.
what?
Then it's
And
gonna be a cliff.
I think a path that maybe, and I loved what Datto did for such like it was incredible that they traded publicly under the ticker MSP. That was a badass. And there is some benefits to going public versus taking on private equity because the public markets, there's typically not one owner, right? It's and so you in those scenarios, you typically do still have the founders and you do still have the DNA of the company, and that's why you know Apple does have great support.
Well, if you go to a Genius bar, I don't know how Apple for Business works, but I digress.
I mean, even just the chat experience of messaging Apple is
Okay.
just
I
rock
haven't
bottom.
recently, but back to, hey, my iPhone just works. Like I
Yeah,
don't really have a problem with it, and
because they
I,
listen to customers the whole time and they fixed it all. They fixed
like
it
I
all.
haven't run into a problem with my phone in so long. It just runs.
Yeah, and my laptop is
Yeah.
about to die. Let
Go
me.
in, go plug in. We'll give you a second to do that.
All right.
Awesome. There it
Next to
is.
this rocket.
Space Center. I was actually just saw an article that their United States said in 2030, which is in 5 years from now, they're going to leave the International Space Station because they think that all the commercial space centers will be launching by then. I was like,
Yeah, I
what?
mean it's expensive.
I was like, dude, that's 5 years from now. That's not that long. That's
Yeah.
great. Um, you said you had a story that you thought you could sneak in earlier.
It was the Chipotle thing that to break the bot, I had to lie to say that I'm a vendor that wants to paint the walls inside of the Chipotle store.
That's
It's like
crazy. So when you got to a real person, what did they say?
I'm pretty sure the IVR, the bot didn't even pass on the message. Yeah,
Got
the
it.
guy was just like, "Hi, how can I help you?"
Okay.
I'm like, great, dude, great. Thank you for wasting 15 minutes of my life.
I talk about this all the time. I'm gonna say, people who listen to this probably roll their eyes in their head, but like back to customer experience, like Spirit just filed for I think it was chapter 11 or I forget what chapter, right? They filed for bankruptcy again not long ago, last 30 days. Frontier, in the same token, a company that deleted their phone number about 2 years ago, right? Like you can't call them. There is no number to call them. As a customer, you can only interact with them through the app. And even though they launched the $300 a month all you can fly special, the fact that I can't talk to someone if I have a problem is a big problem for me. And I
Mhm.
travel pretty constantly, right? So I don't, do you like, I guess that leads me into the digital divide, right? Like younger people kind of like are allergic to the phone for some reason. Slightly older people, if I can't get you on the phone, I don't want to deal with you. It's such a
No.
drastic drop in each direction. Um, so is Frontier angling for the lower cost, younger buyer that doesn't care about the phone? I don't know, but I just don't know if that's a good strategy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're called digital natives, right? In that they were born in an era where, and they probably haven't built up that muscle that calling someone is like a really social experience. Like you have to talk to people and have like be able to have little niceties, be able to veer off into little side conversation where it's very cozy behind the blue screen of your phone, where you don't have to really expose yourself or make yourself vulnerable. So yeah, they feel a lot more comfortable in those mediums, right? Where it I can just chat, and I'm okay. I'm okay. Like, if you respond a little later, but at least I don't have to take on the social anxiety of talking to a real human. So I do think that there's a divide in the behaviors there. Um, I hope that Frontier is smart enough to be thinking about it the way that you are, where they're saying, because we're a cheaper airline, our goal is to focus on the younger demographic that typically doesn't opt in for luxury like you would with a Delta or an airline, United Airlines, for example. Um, and so they probably have done some analysis. I think that makes sense, but it, it's just in our industry, it's like y- we can't block off one of those channels. We can't just turn off the phones. You can't, because there's still a lot of businesses that are not led by digital natives. And will that change in the next 20 years? Of course. There's always a transfer of wealth from the older generation to the new generation. If Blackstone doesn't buy everything by accident in between that generational transfer. But yeah, I think ultimately it will become more multimodal. I think chat is still in the 15% mark, maybe 20s in certain industries. I think we'll see that rise pretty significantly.
You actually, this is actually a question I usually ask, right? Like every time I talk to MSPs, and I think both of us probably talk to them on a regular, I'm like of 100% of the way that you received inbound requests from your customer, which I would say is largely how we interact with people, right? Like they don't pay attention to what we tell them until they have a problem. Then they call, or then they email, or then they chat, or then they go put in a ticket, or then they send a text message, whatever. Like it seems to me like I kind of try the parallel to this in back to food because I'm always going back to food. It's like the Chick-fil-A drive-through. I don't do the mobile pickup. I go through the regular line because the regular line doesn't take that long. I don't have to think ahead. I just show up and 4 minutes later I'm gone with my food. Like I
no,
know that that's not the norm for every place, but for Chick-fil-A, at my local Chick-fil-A down the street, 1 mile down the road, the mobile lane's always empty. I think they made a bet that at some point that percentage would shift the other way, that more
that's
people
right.
would do mobile ordering from the other way. But that's not what's happening here. So back to the percentages you were talking about of 100% of the way the end customer interacts with their IT services company, you're saying what's that percent? Is it 15%? Is it 5%? Is it
It, it
20%? What is it?
it depends on the demographic of the customer base of the MSP, right? Because some of us are vertically specialized. So if you're going after the legal industry, you'll probably have a little bit lower on the chat side, because legal does tend to have older partners, and
Hmm.
they are still phone driven. While if you go to a different industry, like any developers, or what we see on the West Coast, even like education, school, we see a lot of adoption. So you're seeing 20% there, 25%, because school, like the teacher is always teaching the classroom. They can't get on a call. So for them, it's so much easier to use, a computer in the middle of that day, to just chat. So I think it is industry specific. I would benchmark it right now around 10 to 15% is
Okay.
coming.
So let's even use 15%. That means 85% is coming with every other channel.
phone and email. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so fast forward to 2030, that's approximately 5 years from now. Where would you guesstimate the percentages to be?
You know, I think I think there's some driving forces. I do think that, chat or conversational experiences are going to increase. I would expect that it comes to about 30%,
Okay.
maybe 35, 40. I do think that email and chat are very similar. So I think we're going to see a lot of email move to chat, not necessarily phone to chat,
Mm-hmm.
because those are both digital mediums, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except email is kind of like a black box. You throw it in and you hope you get a response at some point.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think we'll see chat eat into email. One thing I would love to just point out is, the dot-com bubble was a pretty big event, right? Like it, and what happened was we overinvested.
Mm.
Pets.com, cars.com, everything is going to be online. Everything's going to be online. And humans have this, like, the humans that have survived are the ones that reacted quickly to external things happening, right? And so we
Yeah.
typically overreact at first. We overinvest, like the mobile order lane that you see. However, after that collapse, what was left behind was the infrastructure, the all that investment we made into the DSL lines and
Mm.
those phone lines, and that gave birth to Web 2, which ultimately changed our lives. Look at Amazon, look at Uber, look at these things that only exist because of that overinvestment we made. So yes, maybe we don't get all of that back today, but these investments are for the future, and this infrastructure will outlive some of those smaller application use cases that maybe we're still fine tuning.
I believe it. I mean, you're absolutely 100. I'm with you there. And that the cool part is who picks up all the pieces and figures out a new way to do something, right? I mean, and that's kind of the entrepreneurialism that we're all, encouraged to follow, right? Try something new, build something new. I mean, for every good idea,
How we
10
got
bad
into the
ideas.
MSP industry, right? That's
Yeah,
how most MSPs were started. One person said, "Hey, I'm pretty good at this. I think I could run an IT company."
100%. Let me think a couple extra things here as we're kind of in the home run stretch here. So the median age of the MSP business owner is kind of higher, right? 50s, 40s, 50s?
Owners, like,
Yeah,
and again, it depends like what scale you're talking about. But yeah, if you're like making 5, 10 million plus, you've probably been in the business for a little while. Typically takes you 10 to 15 years to get to that number. I think
Mhm.
you're seeing people in late 40s and early 50s
Okay.
right now.
So, but yet we're still seeing net new MSPs pop up every month, every week, every quarter.
Mhm.
And generally, in my experience, the reason why that would happen is somebody was working for corporate America, their job disappeared, and they ended up going out and starting something on their own. So that's never going to change, right? I think it's my opinion based on all the things I've read that from 2020 until now, the tech industry at large has cut more jobs and added more jobs. I mean, I'm talking bigs now, Microsoft and all, like even the big names, right? I feel like there are more jobs that have been removed in that 5 year window than have been added.
Yeah, yeah, and they overhired during the ZERP era, during COVID. They had the cash that was given for free, and so now they're trying to cut the fat and get more lean. So I think that's true. Overall, though, technology on a broader horizon creates more jobs than it destroys, right? If you think
Okay.
about how, in New York, everyone loves the brownstones, and they're gorgeous and they're 10 million, $15 million. But the reason why they exist is because there was so much horse poop that people had to move their doors up because it was smelling too much into their house. So all the poop cleaners of New York all disappeared when the cars came out, right?
Hmm.
So you lost a lot of horse related jobs. The horse related industry really shrank. But there's a lot more mechanics and car dealerships than there was ever anyone that was selling horses. And that happens all the time, right? Barnes and Nobles died because the world's largest bookstore opened, Amazon. And Amazon now has what, 250, 300,000 employees?
Mm-hmm.
So I think over the broader scale, assuming that population growth is stable and it continues to grow,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that technology ultimately produces more jobs than it destroys.
Fair. Okay. But in the MSP industry, where are all these new MSPs coming from? Because if the median age is kind of closer to 50-ish, then where are the 20 and 30 and 40s coming from?
So I do think a lot of it is likely folks that maybe work in enterprise IT, internal IT, that moonlight on the side, pick up a few jobs. Hey, I'm supporting this little customer. So I think what's become really norm in the new generation is freelancing. I think it's become normal to have multiple streams of income, right? People are looking at, oh my God, I want to be an influencer on YouTube and still have my day job. I think
Fair.
that that's become the norm, that people do have multiple sources of income. And I do think at some point they make that jump. My hypothesis is that, again, over the broad term, I don't think the number of employees per company is going to increase that
Okay.
rapidly as it did before, but I think the number of companies will increase because it's getting easier to start a company, and it's people want the flexibility of lifestyle, and I don't know why they think that it's going to be easy to have their own company, but there is an appeal towards being self-employed.
Fair.
So that's
Okay.
my feel. I think that there's like the freelancers that are becoming self-employed.
Okay. Fair. So you think in 5 years from now, I always like to go 5 years because it's like a round number that everybody can like imagine. 5 years from now, considering the consolidation happening at the top with PE and investment dollars, net new guys, freelancing coming in is on the bottom, right? You got your mainstay people in the middle. Industry bigger, smaller, or the same in 5 years?
Significantly bigger.
Significantly bigger. What's significant? Can you put a percentage to it, maybe?
So if right now the MSP industry in North America is doing about 350 billion in services delivered to their customers across
Okay.
all of our product lines, I predict that it'll likely balloon closer to 500 billion, if not more than that, because
Okay.
there are certain things that I think will be massive unlocks, right? As things become cheaper,
Hmm.
you do get there is a point where you get more demand, right? When the internet lines were $1,000 a month, you didn't have a lot of people buying internet lines. But now with DSL and Fios, whatever fiber, you ended up with a much bigger total addressable market. I think that there's a lot of people that can't afford IT services right now. When we're
Hmm.
charging and when we're charging $200 per user per month, and you have 40 employees, you're like, man, that's $8,000 per month. That's a little hard to swallow, right? Um, I think as some of those services become, the cost will drop because of some the automation that's happening and the improvements there. I think that as some of the core IT services become cheaper, we will have more IT services sold, and we're going to move up the value stream to sell more intelligence services to help those businesses leverage AI inside of their businesses. So there's going to be new product lines that open up. Cybersecurity, I think, is here to stay in a big way. So that's my hypothesis, that as the
Okay.
cost of IT service goes down, the total addressable market goes up.
So there has to be a way to take our low revenue, or even if it's high revenue, low margin products and not spend a lot of time on them.
That's right.
Got it. Okay. Good luck on your event. I'm
Thank you.
excited
I
for you.
apologize. Yeah, people are walking by, seeing me
Yeah.
sitting on the floor.
No, but thank you for jumping on during it. That's awesome. Where do people find more about Thread, what you do for MSPs, and like take a look and like give me a drive by why they should pay attention?
Yeah, take a look at getthread.com. We are the AI service desk company. We have an awesome keynote today. What we are, and we 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 think about not giving you software, but to help you with digital labor. We're looking to help you increase the productivity by giving you agents and AI tools that will shape the future of AI service delivery, or what we call intelligent service delivery.
Hmm.
Um, and we like that because it's not only about artificial intelligence, it's about human intelligence as well, and collaborating on that. We have become extremely good at helping to automate dispatchers. We're able to reduce dispatchers by 50%. Again, we don't believe that dispatchers are going to go away, but we want to make those dispatcher supervisors. And we help to ensure that your customer experience is better and better with the ability to meet customers where they are inside of their teams, their Slack. And a little preview I'll do is that, today we will be launching Service Intelligence, the first agentic platform that learns about your customers and actually creates memories about every end user. What devices do they have? Where do they typically work? What departments? So we're really, really excited to help make use AI to make service more human. It's
Hmm.
incredibly important, and we are excellent at helping you with your service gross margins as well. So I would definitely take a look at getthread.com.
Awesome. By the way, as a guy who has been, I think we're close to 600 of these episodes. I really appreciate the people who are on the supplier vendor side of this conversation who came from the MSP side and like were in the trench and like lived it because it just creates a whole better story on the other side. So
Oh
personally,
my God, I hated time entries. I hated time entries. I had a notepad, and every night after finishing my shift, I had to sit and put in all of my time entries. So I appreciate you saying that, George. I've lived this, I felt it, and God, I still hate time entries. And that's why we automated them.
everybody heard it, right? We all hate time entries. It's true, but you know what? If you're not
And
building
tickets.
and collecting and tracking them, there could be a problem.
Oh, of course. Of course.
So
You hate to do it, but we need
for
to.
all, for all the people in the trench who are like, why do we do this? There's a reason. There's a few reasons. We all hate it, but in order to actually measure something, you need to have information, right?
That's right. And that's a
100%.
place where AI can help. And it's not about taking orders at Taco Bell and accidentally ordering 18,000 tacos. It's about doing stuff like that. Like,
18,000 tacos. Could you imagine somebody at the kitchen printer and they're like, it says 18,000 quantity? What are they supposed to do?
cancel, cancel.
Yeah, exactly. Mark, I
Well,
don't want to take you away from your event. Thank you for jumping on. And hopefully your laptop has enough juice to get to a place where you can plug in and do a keynote. I'm curious to see the like kind of cliff notes on your event. So I'll be
yeah,
paying attention online for that. Guys, getthread.com. Just like it sounds. GETTHREAD.com. I think I can spell right.
that's right.
Mark,
Or you
definitely.
can search for AI service desk for MSPs and
Okay.
you will find this right away.
There you go. Awesome. I'm probably gonna run into you and or your team or everyone in the next little while in the gauntlet period of MSP land. So I'm looking forward to doing that. We'll catch up in person. For everyone else, we recorded this and we've been talking with the Thread team now for a while and like following their journey, right? This is like the third or fourth time we've had somebody from Thread on and the story continues. So check it out. We will have this on all the podcasts and YouTube and all the streaming platforms. So take a look at that. If you don't have any of those, then just go to mspinitiative.com under sessions, and we'll have this posted there shortly. Mark, good luck, my friend. For everyone else,
Thank
catch
you
you on the
so
next
much.
one. Have a good one.
Bye.